Hey, just a quick one. Been really, really busy the last 2 weeks. Finally being able to get back and test athletes in the lab at work, which is one, been fantastic, but two, not so great for getting the highlights videos up from our live streams over the last 2 weeks. So what I've done is I've smashed together some of the best questions and discussion points over the last 2 weeks. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, give you a bit of an insight if you missed that. As always, the replays are up in full, so feel free to go through those, skip through them. They're always up immediately after we finish the live streams on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Melbourne time. If you want to join us for this coming week, Wednesday again, jump in, get involved, ask your questions, send them through on Instagram. I'll leave it down below here at NJ_sportscience. Go get involved over there. Send me a message with your question if you can't make it to the live stream. Always going to get back to you, but we'll bring it up in conversation as well because I'm sure others might be thinking the same thing. As always, keep supporting the channel. Really love the support here. Keep subscribing and sharing the videos. And if you're interested in supporting the channel just above and beyond the usual of commenting, subscribing, liking, sharing with your friends, getting involved in Instagram, all of that type of stuff, you can hit the join button down below. Join Team NJ Sports Science. For under a coffee a month, you can help support this channel, help it grow, help me invest in some different equipment, things like that. We had a bit of a hiccup throughout the live stream on Wednesday, so it's all those little things that I can make a lot better for you guys, create some better content, and spend a little bit more time being able to make the content for you outside of my working hours as well. So if you do want to go to that next little step, hit the join button down below. Really, really do appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you all in the video soon. But for now, here are some of the highlights of the last 2 weeks worth of live stream. And we'll kick things off with question 4 tonight. How does results of a lab testing compare or convert to running on the road? So what Owen's probably referring to here, and he can let me know later when we do catch up, is talking about probably the treadmill difference. What's the difference between running on the road or running around a track versus running on the treadmill? He says here, surely there are some differences. And you're absolutely right. The main thing is when we're on a treadmill, I mean, the key thing that we're looking at is on the treadmill, you've got that assistance. You're not having to necessarily generate the speed, or you're not necessarily having to generate the pace. You get pulled into hip extension. So foot lands on the treadmill, the belt's moving underneath you, and it pulls you back, rather than when you land on the ground out in the road, you have to create all of that drive and propulsion forward. So there is going to be some subtle difference there in terms of, all right, maybe on a treadmill we can cheat it a little bit. If you have a little bit of a floaty, when I say floaty, or quite bouncy style in terms of running, you can kind of skip the belt a little bit, make it a little bit easier for you. So you're kind of selling yourself short, but as long as you stay accountable, the treadmill is going to be reasonably accurate. Now, a lot of studies out there say that 1% on a treadmill, so 1% gradient running, for most speeds is going to be pretty equivalent to the road. We're lucky at the lab testing facility that we work at. We've done some testing with like the Stride power meters, had athletes come in with that, test their power meter information on the treadmill versus their power meter information on outside on the road. And we end up getting, from a running power meter perspective, we end up getting similar power ratings for those same paces when we're running road and treadmill. So what does that tell us? That tells us we've got a really well calibrated treadmill and we're getting some accurate speed readings. But for the most part, and we've been quite particular in some of the equipment that we use in terms of testing. Obviously, we want the most accurate data and most consistent and repeatable data. But in a lot of cases, running at about 1% gradient in some of the literature is shown to be a much better guide. If you've just got a standard, if you're heading to a gym, you've got a standard treadmill, you might have one at home, 1% gradient is probably just a little bit more accurate because the calibration on the speed might be out. That can happen over time as well. A bit of wear on the treadmill is probably going to push it out. So making sure it's up to date, check that everything's working, the belt's running smoothly, all of that, and maintaining the treadmill is obviously key. But yeah, really the main difference comes down to how are you producing that movement. Like I said, treadmill, the belt of the treadmill is going to pull you into hip extension, whereas out in the road you have to create all of that hip extension yourself. So pushing through, propelling, that's why the 1% gradient kind of makes up for that. It makes you step forward, not allow you to cheat it and sort of jump, because you lift the gradient. It's a shorter stride length, so you pick your cadence up a little bit. You have to kind of self-propel a little bit, as long as you're using something that's consistent, and making sure that you understand that there is reasonable consistency. Like I said, our treadmill that we've got in the lab is pretty good between outdoors and running on the treadmill. We get good consistency there, and when we go on prescribed sessions, athletes go away, they do them, and they feel like it's the same pace as what I was running on the treadmill. The psychological aspect of running on a treadmill feels like it's faster because you're not moving anywhere in time and space. So it always sometimes feels like you're running a bit quicker than you actually are, or the pace that is, it might say 5-minute K pace on the treadmill, it feels like you're running at 4:30s. That's just that weird sensation you get off a treadmill side of things. But as soon as we transfer it out to the road, it does pretty well. But for most part, 1% gradient is a good starting point just to try and match up that accuracy as you can. How would you go about off-season endurance training for soccer players? Long and slow runs, hit, etc. Really good question. I actually covered this a little bit talking about in the video I did earlier this week, talking about how do you balance two sports? How do you train for me personally, I train for umpiring football in most of the year, and then I train for triathlon. And triathlon's kind of my off season. So when I look at it from a team sport athlete and you're only training for something like soccer, football, basketball, whatever your sport is, might be field hockey, anything where there's a much more aerobic demand, and things like soccer is a perfect example. Depending on your position, you might alter this slightly, but the general advice would be during your off season, give yourself first and foremost a bit of recovery and rest. Allow yourself to regenerate after that long season. I know how it can get. You do a big preseason, you're training through your off season, and then you've got a whole year's worth of matches to get through, finals, championships, etc. Whatever your competition demands. The off season, first and foremost, you've got to get some recovery and don't necessarily have to drop everything, but maybe just do like 1 or 2 very unstructured sessions during the week. Go and try something different. Go and swim. Go and play a different sport for a couple of weeks. Just give yourself some of that variety and just allow yourself to switch off and really replenish. Then when you're in that off season period where you haven't quite started preseason, it's usually like a month, 2 month type period where you're sort of floating in between. You haven't quite started the full on preparation yet, but you might be still on your own. You're not working with the team yet. Really just a basic combination of a couple of longer, slower runs. And when I say longer, slower, if we're looking at soccer, the longest you're going to have to absolutely, like if you were running 100% of the time, and in soccer you're not going to be, you're going to be walking for periods, you're going to be sprinting for periods. But if you had to hold one speed for the longest period of time in a game, the absolute maximum that's going to be is 45 minutes, maybe plus a little bit extra time on. But 45 minutes is going to be the absolute longest you're ever going to have to be continuously working in a game. And like I said, even then it's going to be shorter because there's going to be stops and starts in the nature of team sport. I would go out and do maybe 2, if you're planning on running like 4 times a week, 2 runs where you're just going out and cruising nice and easy, conversational intensity, 3 to 4 out of 10, long and slow. Build yourself up from, say, running for 20 minutes in a single go to 25 to 30, 35, 40. You can probably take one of those 2 runs up to maybe an hour. That would be more than enough in terms of some volume in the legs. And again, we're not pushing the intensity here. It's just building some Ks in the legs, some aerobic capacity work. The other one, you might only build up to sort of half an hour. So there's an hour and a half worth of running for the week, and it's in 2 sessions. The other stuff, you might want to just add in some high-intensity interval training to an extent, but maybe we're more focused a little bit on some longer intervals. 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, or maybe even 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, just below VO2 max. You're not working at really, really hard intensity stuff like 30 second on, 30 second off, or 10 second on, 10 second off you might do later in preseason. We're looking at big aerobic adaptations here. We just want to get your aerobic engine as functional as possible and just get you as aerobically fit as possible. So things like 2 to 4 minutes on, each of those efforts followed by an equal walking recovery. So 2 minutes on at 9.5 out of 10 RPE. If we're looking at RPE, if you're looking at percentage of VO2 max, 95% of VO2 max, 95% or 90 to 95% MAS if you're using MAS, max aerobic speed. So based on your 2K time trial, average speed, all of these things we can work in. Doing some efforts there, 2 minutes on at that 95, 2 minutes walking. Repeat that 5-6 times, and that's your session done. Maybe 2 of those a week. Even then, for an off-season period, you might want to do 1 high-intensity session, 2 long, slow, and alternate that. Just 3 runs in the week is still more than enough, because you might go and do a different sport. Like I said, you might go and do some cycling, you might do some swimming. Change that up a bit to still get an aerobic stimulus. But if you are looking just purely at running, if you want to run 4 times a week, I'd do 2 long, slow. And when I say long, the longest you probably want to get to is maybe an hour. That's all you really need to do. And even then, that might be a bit excessive in terms of volume. The other one would probably be like half an hour, maybe 40 minutes if you were really keen and you're getting into your running. Again, it's just top up. Like that's probably the run that you don't necessarily have to do. And then a couple of sessions where you just keep the intensity up there to maintain as much at the top end of your fitness as you can. So you can come back to pre-season. You don't want to be peaking first week of pre-season. You don't want to be as fit as possible then. You want to be as fit as possible for the start of the season. So you want to just come back to pre-season so then you can build on that rather than I've gone backwards because I've just taken a couple of months off. I get to pre-season and I'm starting from 0. You want to be, all right, let's start from maybe 75% or 80% of what we can absolutely get to. and allow that 20% to develop over the preseason period, because you have a couple of months, usually sort of 2.5, 3 months over preseason for most teams to be able to get there. Techie question with wearables: what would you do to get the most accuracy out of them? For example, wear higher up the arm for a heart rate monitor, etc. Did a little bit of a summary of what we need to be looking for when we're analyzing some of the data the other day in that video, talking about overcoming the error. And really what we're doing here in terms of the most accuracy is we're trying to, overcome any error in the device, mainly by being as consistent as possible. It almost, for something like a wrist-based heart rate, it almost doesn't matter if you have a wrist-based or if you have the arm-based heart rate or if you have a chest strap. If you're getting the reading that you need to see on your screen, so you're getting a heart rate reading and it is mapping correctly with intensity, as intensity goes up, heart rate goes up. As intensity comes down, heart rate comes down. If you're getting things like that, it doesn't matter where you have it necessarily, because each of them is designed for a specific part of the body. Some are going to work better on others, on people than others. Like wrist-based for me is always one that I've struggled with regardless of the device. So I always have a hard time from a wrist-based perspective. Chest strap is my go-to personally. I know athletes who are the opposite. But it's the type of thing that, as long as you're consistent, if I just wear a wrist-based heart rate monitor, I need to wear that as many times as I can on my training sessions and do all my comparisons to those sessions where I've worn wrist-based. Or if I always wear a chest strap, I need to make sure when I'm doing comparisons in my sessions, I don't compare what I got from a chest strap to what I got from a wrist-based to what I got from an arm-based, if we're talking about heart rate monitors or any other devices. I'm not comparing my pace that I got from my foot pod on my stride power meter or whatever it might be. I'm not getting the estimated pace there and comparing that with what my watch did because I only wore one or the other. I need to be consistent in my application. That's going to give you the most accuracy in terms of what we call reliability, being able to make repeatable results. And that's what we do in the lab as well. I mean, doing a VO2 max test on your own bike on a Tax trainer, for example, or a Wahoo kicker, the Wahoo kicker or the Tax Neo may not be the most accurate smart trainer out there. There are ones called Cyclops that cost thousands and thousands of dollars more than what a Tax or a kicker would cost. They're incredibly accurate in terms of power meters. They're not a calibrated ergometer that you would have in a more clinical setting. Are they repeatable and reliable? Yes, because we use them again and again and we're constantly comparing back to them. If we've got athletes who have a kicker and they want to bring their kicker in because that's what they then train on, we're getting them to bring the kicker in. They do the test on that. I had one yesterday. I had an athlete that I'm doing some work with that he brought his kicker in because he's like, you know what, I'm going to train on that. So instead of having some variation between what the Tax power reading is and what my kicker reading is, I'm just going to bring the kicker in and do my test on that. So that every time he goes and trains on that kicker now, he has a consistent, reliable metric. So that's more the important thing. First and foremost, is it measuring what it's supposed to, which is our validity? Is it measuring heart rate? And is it mapping that accordingly to, or is it measuring power? Is it increasing when it should be? Is it decreasing when it should be? From then on, as long as you have a consistent application of that, same spot or same type of measurement, power meters, don't chop and change between smart trainer to pedal base to crank base back to pedal base. Have a consistency, unless you're doing some sort of cross comparison of different types of methods to see which one seems to be more aligned with where you're at. That's okay. If you're checking what your wrist-based heart rate versus a chest strap is versus an armband, you want to wear all three in the same session, that's all right. That's where you can change it up. But I wouldn't be wearing one on one day and then the other day trying to wear another one and then trying to make a comparison, because you're going to have differences in what their error readings are and differences in how they're interpreting that data. So I hope that answered that one in regards to wearables. Be just consistent in your application and you're going to get the most reliable, accurate result. All of the commercial devices that you can buy are going to have some sort of error. So in terms of moving them around isn't going to change their accuracy too much, as long as you're wearing them how they're intended to be worn and you can repeat it. That's all we need to do. So hopefully you got a little bit out of those discussion points, some really interesting topics that we talked about throughout the last couple of weeks. Like I said at the beginning of the video, join us Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Melbourne time, so Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Get involved in the live stream, ask your questions, send them through on Instagram beforehand. If you can't make the live stream, that's the easiest way to get in touch with me directly at NJ_sportscience. I'll put it in the bottom corner here so you can go check that one out. As always, continue to subscribe, sharing the videos, continue to grow this great community we've got. I really do appreciate all the support on this channel. I love interacting with you guys and answering all of your questions. So that is it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this one and we'll see you in the next one.